Well, continuing that conversation, I also spoke with author and historian Dele Ogun for his perspective on what Buhari's passing represents for Nigeria's democratic journey. President Buhari laid to rest on Tuesday. His legacy, of course, is shaped by being a former military ruler and civilian president. How rare is that combination if we talk about African leadership?
Well, not really that rare, because you had Rawlings before, who was a military ruler, then took his uniform off, became president. You had Museveni, and you still have him in Uganda, military ruler turned president. So it's not really that unusual. It's actually, in my assessment, is the template that the West now became comfortable with. So behind the civilian civic appearance is the steel of the soldier, and so Buhari is not an exception. He's only an exception because he's now, we're talking about his death, and in terms of Nigeria, his life actually defines the Nigeria story.
Interesting.
In this sense, that he joined the army in 1962. And it's ironic that we're doing this interview outside the British House of Commons, the Parliament. We started with the parliamentary system in 1960. We were kicked off with that. 1962 was the beginning of the political troubles, the first time that the military entered the space. What am I referring to? Western region, declaration of state of emergency, troops on the street, took over what was the Western Region Parliament at that time. Wow. I'm pretty sure that Buhari, if you check the records, I'm pretty sure that Buhari was part of the soldiers, the young soldiers that were policing, took over Western Region at that time. Then we wind forward from the parliamentary system. What do we get next? Military rule, military intervention. Buhari was part of that story. He was governor of Borno in the Muritala administration. And then we roll forward again, roll past the war. When we come back out, what do we move to? A presidential system. And Buhari, once again, it manifests because he was military presidential ruler.
Wow.
So this is what I mean by saying that his life, when you look at it, it actually
runs parallel.
It runs parallel to the Nigeria story, from parliamentary system via military rule to presidential system.
It's very interesting. His presidency coincided with critical economic periods for Nigeria, oil shocks, global pandemics and domestic reforms. From your perspective as a lawyer, how would you summarize his impact on Nigeria's economic and legal structures?
Well, I would say that he exposed the nakedness of democracy in Nigeria. What do I mean by that? As I said, we started off with the parliamentary system.
Yes.
And it is ironic that here we are, inside that building, inside the Westminster model, here we are in Westminster, is a certain Nigerian lady, Kemi Badenoch, who is doing what? Her role is to hold the Prime Minister to account in the way he's running the country, the decisions he's making. Now, she represents what is missing from the current political structure that we have in Nigeria.
Credible opposition.
Credible opposition, and more than that, somebody who holds the main decision maker to account on a weekly basis on behalf of the people. Buhari was the one who actually, in my assessment, moved us from a presidential system, because even in a presidential system, Trump, you see, is still having to answer questions weekly, daily, etc., held to account. Buhari moved it to an imperial system.
Wow.
Because remember, when he took office, for the first 6 months, no ministers were appointed. He ran the country by himself. And then thereafter, he spoke when he chose to speak, such that it was almost doing us a favor when he condescended to speak. So we moved from, in my assessment, a presidential system that when he took office, by the time he left office, we've ended up with an imperial system.
Wow. Does that still exist?
It still does, because even to now, at what point is he held to account? So the foundations, he could not have run the country that way. But because of what Buhari did, such that nobody could question him, he was an untouchable. He was the emperor. And so therefore that has been inherited. And this is what we're still running with. So that's his impact on the system.
One of Buhari's major areas of focus was anti-corruption. You remember what David Cameron said, stone's throw away from here, about Nigeria being fantastically corrupt. Has Nigeria fundamentally changed in that regard?
Oh, not at all. Not at all. You remember he came in, Buhari, in his first manifestation as a military ruler. Do you remember the program that he ran there? War Against Indiscipline.
Absolutely.
Because
That's right.
he was seeing the problem.
Zero tolerance.
Zero tolerance. He was seeing the problem as indiscipline, corruption, and the problem was a human problem. What he has shown, and he's now been back again, and remember the various operations he ran? Operation Crocodile Smile. Remember that one? I forget the other one. Python Dance. Yeah. Yes, all relying on gun and discipline and oppression.
That was
of
his
the
style.
peoples. That was his style, and because he thought the problem was a people problem. What we've seen is that it's not, and so therefore it's a structural problem. The corruption, before the financial corruption, comes the political corruption, and until the political corruption is addressed and rectified with a proper governance structure, accountability. It's no point him talking about financial corruption and chasing Madam Desani around the world on allegations of corruption. And the political system is corrupt.
Yes.
So he leaves a legacy where his main witch, the witch hunt that he launched against Desani.
Not one individual, Dele.
Well, he was the head of the administration. It was his.
But it wasn't a witch hunt against one individual.
It was a special hunt against that woman.
Okay.
And she was tried on the media, but did we ever get a trial? So how serious was he? How serious was he?
Interesting.
In terms of dealing with corruption?
Some say this is the end of the old guard, his death. What does his death symbolise to you? Let's kind of take it back a bit, moment by moment. You heard the news on Sunday. What does this mean? Summarise it for us.
Well, when I assess his performance, both as a military ruler and then as a nominally presidential ruler, it's defined, I would say, by blood and by bloodshed. People forget. Remember NSARS? Remember this little poster here? 20th of October 2020. Young Nigerians protesting at Lekki toll gate. He was the commander-in-chief. He was the one who deployed the armed forces out. The allegation they claimed was that they didn't shoot any of the citizens, the students, the young people. They were shooting over their heads. But think about that. Even if you assume that they were shooting over, even if you believe that narrative, is that not terrorism? You're terrorizing civilians. And so I've mentioned Operation Python Dance in the east. I've mentioned Operation Crocodile Smile. So when you look at his legacy, it's a blood-stained one. The flag of Nigeria was stained by his administration, because he only knew one way of running the show.
So you would say, Dele Ogun, that President Muhammadu Buhari's legacy is a legacy of bloodshed?
A legacy of blood. A legacy of bloodshed, if you prefer, legacy of blood. That's what you're defining, because you look at all the elements. He's a military guy. He started off, as I said, in 1962, when there's a coup, violence. He then into the army. The only war that you really associate him with was not fighting enemies, as it were. It was fighting Nigerians. It was the Civil War, killing fellow Nigerians. And then you look at his administration, Crocodile Smile, NSARS, what's the other one? Python Dance. He can't run away from that legacy. That's what defines him.
For the international community watching events unfold, of course he died in London, what message do you think they will take away from Nigeria at this moment? Where does Nigeria stand in its trajectory?
But the legacy and the lesson that they should take from it is this, that the strong man is not the solution. The soldier can't solve it. He tried as a military ruler. He came back as a military ruler with a civilian facade. neither works. The only solution to Nigeria's problem is a strong constitution. And a constitution gets its strength from the people. To the extent to which the people actually consent to the constitutional order, that is the cement that holds the political structure. Bullets won't do it. This is the lesson for the international community. Bullets won't do it. They will hold it temporarily, but it will fall apart. See, Biafra is back in the news again. Why? Because we are relying on the strong man as opposed to a strong consensus.
Well, who's the strong man now?
Who's the you see, when a system dies, you never quite pinpoint the point at which it died. A human being dies, it died on this date. When a political order dies, there's no precise date at which. It's only retrospectively that you look back and say, oh, it died at that point. So when you're looking for who is the strong man, Tinubu thinks he's the strong man, but he can't really hold it together. It's firefighting. We've had governance by firefighting. That's all we've ever had. Whereas we need, for true governance, the one that will attract foreign investment, because foreign investors need political stability. An investor needs to be able to see the long term. He doesn't want to invest. It's the pirate that invests for a week, a month, or even a year and wants his quick return. The real investors, it's about long-term stability. They need to be able to see the next 20 years, the next 30 years, the next 40 years, 50 years. And you only get that with a political structure that's rooted in the consent of the people.
So finally, what does Buhari's death mean for President Tinubu?
Well, what does it mean for Tinubu? Tinubu has inherited a poisoned legacy. And what do I mean by that? Right now, he's got Nnamdi Kanu locked up in prison. It wasn't Tinubu that locked him up. It was Buhari who locked him up. But the legacy has been passed to Tinubu. Now he's got a hot potato in his hand in terms of how he deals with that. It has to be managed with sensitivity.
How should he deal with it?
He should release him instantly. Now that he can blame the
Nnamdi Kanu swore that President Buhari died many years ago.
Well, you know, there's all sorts of narratives in Nigeria.
That's right. But fake news
the
can
line
be very
between
dangerous.
Fable and fact.
It's a very thin line.
It's a very thin
Even
line.
here.
Exactly. And so what he needs to do,
Yeah.
what he needs to do is diffuse that problem with the East and release it.
Yeah.
He can distance it and say, well, that was Buhari's
Do you think he will?
Somehow, I suspect he will not. Somehow, I suspect he will not. He ought to. It's the sensible thing to do. And it's his opportunity to do that. I mean, you see Trump saying in relation to the Ukraine war, that was Biden's war. So you distance yourself from it. But the longer Tinubu holds on to Kanu, it becomes Tinubu's problem.
That's quite interesting. So many elements to this pie. What about the North, who are in deep mourning at the moment? Is this a time to repair fractures in the bridge between the East and the West and the North? Or could this make things worse, Buhari's death?
Well, Buhari,
what are you sensing?
Yeah, Buhari, it is an opportunity, it's a window of opportunity, because Buhari was the one who reopened the wounds in the East with his Operation Python dance and all the rest of that. With his locking up of his rendition of kind of kidnap him from Kenya and drag him back to Nigeria, lock him up in prison. That was sending signals of rejection to the East.
Interesting.
And again, the North has an opportunity of saying, it was that guy Buhari with his obsession with blood and gore and all the rest of that. Now he's gone, we have an opportunity to repair the relationship. So it's a unique opportunity for healing across the divide in Nigeria, because Buhari really represented the face of the North, in the sense that he was both Fulani and Kanuri. He had that dual dimension. And so he represented the solid face of the caliphate.
Wow.
And with him gone, there's an opportunity for a new face to be shown to Nigeria and Nigerians and to the rest of the world. If we miss this opportunity, then the consequences could be even more bloodshed, as I foresee. So it's a unique opening, and it needs to be seized.
Gosh, a unique perspective as well. Always fascinating, feasting upon your wonderful ideas and perspectives. Dele Ogun, author, historian, lawyer, thank you so much for joining me on the show.
Thank you very much for inviting me.